बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल। जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय।
I think it's all right. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Balaram Jayanti ki. Jai Shri Shri Balaram ki. Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki. Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki. So since we had been having the kirtan for some time, I'll just have the kirtan at the end and we can speak on Balaram. Sri Balaram is Krishna's first expansion. The original Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sri Krishna of Vrindavan, who is the son of Nanda Maharaj. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings reveals that fact. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur summarized Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings as Aradho Bhagavan Brajesho Tanai. The supreme worshipable personality of Godhead is the son of Nanda Maharaj. And Stadhamo Vrindavanam. His abode is Vrindavan. The supreme personality of Godhead is the son of Nanda Maharaj, and he resides in Vrindavan. There is a Hindi bhajan also that is saying the same thing. Krishna jinka naam hai, Gokul jinka dham hai. Gokul is his dham. ऐसे श्री भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम है. And then it goes, जशोदा जिनकी मैया है, नंद जी बपैया है. Jashoda is his mother and Nanda Maharaj is his father. That's the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that original Supreme Personality of Godhead's first expansion is Balaram. And that expansion is in Vrindavan. Then his next expansion is Chaturbhuha. Chaturbhuha. Vasudev, Krishna, expands in Dwarka as Vasudev. Balaram expands as Shankarshan. Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. These are the 4 expansions of Krishna. And then this Shankarshan expands the Narayans of Vaikuntha. And this Narayana of Vaikuntha also have, Narayans of Vaikuntha rather, have their Chaturbhuha. Vasudev, Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and from this Shankarshan expands Mahavishnu. That Mahavishnu is the cause of material creation. So Mahavishnu, as he lies in the causal ocean and as he breathes, and the bubbles that are generated from his breathing, each single bubble is an universe. And then he expands, enters into each universe as Garbho Dokshai Vishnu. So this is how the Lord's expansions actually takes place. Now the point is, although he expands, but he is the same personality. He is the same, one without a second. It's his expansions. And these expansions have been identified in various ways. Like in Brahma Samhita, it has been described just as one original lamp lights various other lamps, and when the lamps are lit, they give out the same amount of light and heat. Similarly, when Krishna expands, the same Krishna with the same potency, with the same identity. Only his form appears to be different, and those different expansions are due to executing, or for the sake of executing, different purposes, fulfill different objectives. Like, for example, when he gets involved in creation, he becomes Vishnu. That Vishnu aspect is related to the material nature. Anyway, the point is, Balaram is Krishna's first expansion. And when Krishna came to this material nature, you all know that. How many of you read the Krishna book or the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? Please raise your hands. Okay, you all remember the first chapter? The earth became overburdened with the military force of the demoniac kings who were actually troubling Mother Earth. So Mother Earth, being tormented in this way, went to Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma then went to the Kshir, the milk ocean, and appealed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that aspect has further been elaborated in Garga Samhita. That has been further. Actually, Srimad Bhagavatam is giving the activities of Krishna, pastimes of Krishna in summary, in short. The other Samhitas and Puranas have expanded those concepts. Like Garga Samhita, you all remember who is Garga Muni? Garga Muni is the family priest of the Yadus. Vasudev, Krishna's father, is from the Jadu dynasty, and their family priest is Garga Muni. So Garga Muni is giving the descriptions. Like when Krishna went there, Brahma went to Krishna. Then Krishna said, mind you, which Krishna is this? Krishna of Vrindavan, not Vishnu. When he went and told him about the earth's precarious condition, then Krishna agreed to come. He said, okay, I'll come. So then Radharani became very, very upset. That how can I survive without you? If you leave, I'm going to give up my life. So Krishna said, okay, you can come with me also. So then Radharani said, I don't want to leave this Govardhan, Gokul, the forests. I don't want to go to the earth planet, such a terrible place. Then Krishna said, okay, then I'll take a part of Vrindavan to the earth planet. And that's how Vrindavan also descended when Krishna decided to come. So Krishna, and along Krishna came not only along with Srimati Radharani, but Krishna came along with Vrindavan during these pastimes. And in Vrindavan, Krishna appeared as the 8th son of Mother Devaki and Vasudeva, not exactly in Vrindavan, but in Mathura. Kamsa was told when Vasudeva and Devaki just got married, and Devaki was Kamsa's dear young sister, cousin. So he was very joyfully, he was taking the bride, newly wedded bride and the groom to their house. And then there was a celestial voice declared, warned Kamsa. Kamsa, the couple that very affectionately you are riding to their home, this sister's 8th son is going to be the cause of your death. So immediately Kamsa pulled out his sword and was about to kill Devaki. But Vasudeva reasoned with Kamsa, Kamsa, you are a great hero. And if you kill a woman, that will be such a disgrace to your illustrious character. And that also your own sister, what people will tell about you. So spare her. She is not going to be the cause of your death, but it is her 8th son that will be the cause of your death. So I promise that all my children that are born out from the womb of Devaki, I will offer them to you, and you can decide what you want to do with them. So then Kamsa accepted the proposal, and Kamsa spared Devaki. And in this way, one after another, 6 children were born, and Vasudeva was so truthful, so honest, that he carried all the children one after another to Kamsa, and Kamsa killed them right after their birth. The 6th was actually Balaram. And when he was 7 months old in pregnancy, then Balaram was transported from Devaki's womb to Rohini's womb. Rohini is another wife of Kamsa, who was sheltered by Nanda Maharaj. When Kamsa started his atrocities with Vasudeva and his relatives, then Rohini took shelter of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. So Balaram was transported from Devaki's womb to Rohini's womb. And this is how everyone thought that the 7th pregnancy of Devaki had a miscarriage. So this is how Balaram actually appeared. And Balaram is the source of all strength. Balaram is the personification of time. Balaram is the cause of all living entities, expansions coming from Balaram. Therefore, when a living entity goes back to the spiritual sky, he has to go through the medium of Balaram. Because we are originating from Balaram, therefore we go back to the spiritual world through him. Now who takes us back to the spiritual world? Balaram. And those who are helping us to go back to Godhead, they are actually expansions of Balaram or representatives of Balaram. Therefore, it is considered that Balaram is the original spiritual master, and all the spiritual masters are Balaram's representatives. And Krishna came to kill the demons. So most of the demons were actually killed by Krishna. But Balaram killed a few. One of the demons that Balaram killed was Dhenukasura. Dhenukasura is the ass demon. Dhenuka means ass, and Asura means a demon. This particular demon assumed the form of an ass. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Krishna Samhita identified different demons as different hindrance to our spiritual progress in our own life, in us. So one of the hindrances is to behave like an ass. Ass is famous for its stupidity. So one of our major stupidity is that when we unnecessarily carry a burden without any benefit. What is that What is that burden? That's the burden of karma, our own actions. Because we want to enjoy the reactions of our actions, we are actually unnecessarily carrying the burden. If we offered our actions to Krishna, then what will happen? Will we be carrying the burden? No, we'll become free from the burden. But because we are like asses, donkeys, that we tend to carry the unnecessary burden. Have you seen donkeys? Have you seen donkeys carrying burdens? Like, I mean, nowadays, they have buckies and transport trucks and things, so people generally carry nowadays things in trucks and other kind of vehicles. But in early days, I mean, even in my childhood, I used to see how the donkeys used to carry the burden. I mean, they used to carry such heavy burden that you wouldn't see the donkey. All you see, the big burden that they're carrying. And so that is a donkey. And when we approach a spiritual master, what does the spiritual master do? He teaches us about not to unnecessarily carry the burden of our karma, but rather offer it to Krishna. Jat karosi jadasnasi jat juhosi dadasi jat jat tapushoshi konteya tat kurusha madarpanam. Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita. And when we do that, then we become, not only we become free from our burdens, but Krishna takes the responsibility. When we surrender to Krishna, Krishna relieves us from our unnecessary burden. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksho ishami. Krishna is giving us the assurance. So that is the benefit. But how do we get to know about that benefit? When do we get to know that we are unnecessarily carrying all these burdens? When we come across a bona fide spiritual master. The spiritual master teaches us that whatever you do, do it for Krishna. And that way you'll become free from your karmic reactions. So that is how the spiritual master is in us, in our particular lives. The spiritual master is freeing us from the unnecessary burden that we are carrying like a donkey. So Balaram killed that donkey demon. The original spiritual master kills that donkey demon, ass demon. One day Krishna with his friends were tending the cows. The cows were the cowherd boys became hungry and they appealed to Krishna. Krishna, we are feeling so hungry. Then one of the boys said, well, there is a tal forest. How many of you have seen tal fruit? Okay. So in Australia it doesn't grow. I haven't seen tal trees anywhere outside of India. So these tal trees are palm trees, huge, very long palm trees, and they grow these tal fruits which are about this big and very beautiful. They have deep purple color and it has a beautiful fragrance, and inside it has the juice, very sweet, delicious juice. So one of the boys said that there is a tal forest here full of tal fruits. Let's go and take the tal fruit. Some other boys said, no, don't go there. There is this Dhenukasura demon. Whoever goes there, he kills him. So hearing that, Balaram said, what? Dhenukasura? Why should he be afraid of such puny little demon? Let's go, come, let's go and have a feast of tal fruits. So they all went. Balaram led the party and he grabbed, these tal trees are very strong and very large. So Balaram just grabbed the tal tree and started to shake it. And all the ripe tal fruits started to fall on the ground with a loud sound. Dhenukasura, who would not allow anyone to come there, and he also would not allow anybody to taste this tal fruit, Dhenukasura was having a nap, afternoon nap. So he woke up and he was very disturbed. Who is doing that? Who dared to come to my forest? And then Dhenukasura went and found that these boys have entered and they are trying to plunder his tal fruits. So Dhenukasura went and attacked Balaram. We went and kicked him on his chest with his hind legs. Nothing happened to Balaram. Who can ever affect Balaram? But Balaram grabbed the demon by its hind legs and started to swing him over his head and let him go. Let his body go, and the body fell on a tal tree and the tal tree got smashed, and the forest of tal trees was so dense that when one tree fell and all the other trees also started to fall like a pack of cards. And then Balaram killed Dhenukasura. Dhenukasura's associates and relatives came out and attacked the cowherd boys, and Balaram and Krishna and all the cowherd boys finished them all, killed them all. So that's the first demon that Balaram killed. Another demon Balaram killed was Pralambasura. These demons are actually Kamsa's associates. And they were trying to kill Krishna and Balaram to assist their friend Kamsa. But they all got killed one after another. As I said, most of the demons were killed by Krishna, but Balaram killed a few. So the other one that Balaram killed was Pralambasura. Pralambasura, these demons actually had mystic power. You see, people become so impressed with mystic power nowadays. But actually when we read these pastimes of Krishna, then we see that all these demons are actually mystic power. So mystic power doesn't make one saintly or doesn't make one spiritually advanced. So these demons had this mystic power that they could transform themselves into something else. Like you know how Putana came. She came to kill Krishna appearing to be the most beautiful woman. So beautiful that everyone there thought that maybe Lakshmi Devi herself has come. But it was Putana, a demon. So with her mystic power, she could transform herself into a most beautiful woman. Similarly, Trinavarta transformed himself into a whirlwind. In this way, different demons were assuming different forms and trying to kill Krishna. So Pralambasura assumed the form of a cowherd boy. And appearing as a cowherd boy, he thought that he would kill Balaram. He decided to kill Balaram because by the time, so many demons had been killed by Krishna when they came to kill Krishna. So he thought that killing Krishna is difficult. So let me kill Balaram. Then they are so attached to each other that when Balaram dies, then in his separation Krishna will die. So he thought that indirectly he would kill Krishna in this way. So the cowherd boys, they used to take the cows in the morning, and while the cows were grazing, they would play in the forest of Vrindavan. One of their popular games was wrestling. And the wrestling match has a condition that the winner has to carry the loser has to carry the winner on his back. So Pralambasura sided against Balaram. And in that wrestling bout, he was lost. So now he'll have to carry Balaram. He deliberately did that. He thought that, okay, now I'll carry Balaram. And so he carried Balaram, and Balaram also was happily riding on his back, okay, take me around. But then when he took Balaram on his back, and he started to run. He started to run towards Mathura. And he assumed his demoniac form, which was huge, like a mountain. And it has been described that Balaram on his back at that time appeared to be like a bright white moon, full moon on top of a mountain. So then Balaram realized that this is not a cowherd boy, this is a demon. So what Balaram did? Balaram just hit him on the head with his bare hands, with his fist. And just as a mountain cracks being struck by thunderbolt, the demon's heads cracked and he fell dead. There. So this is how Balaram killed Pralambasura. First Dhenukasura, then Pralambasura. Among many other demons that Balaram killed was also Kuta and Mushtika. Kamsa, when he failed to kill Krishna and Balaram by sending his very, very powerful demoniac associates, then Narad Muni actually advised him. Okay, let me give you the background also. One day, Narad Muni came to Kamsa. Why Narad Muni used to go to Kamsa? To accelerate his death. Because the demigods used to tell Narad Muni, please do something that Krishna kills this demon quickly. So, one Upanishad actually describes it in this way, that one day Keshi came to Krishna. Came to Kamsa. And Keshi said, Kamsa, what happened? The rings around your eyes, you look, the face has become so pale and wrinkled and as if you are in great anxiety. What happened? So Kamsa started to tell him that, look, this Krishna seems to be the son of Vasudeva, who has been destined to kill me. Now I'm trying to kill Krishna, but I can't. So all these powerful demons are going there, but they cannot kill him. Rather, they all are getting killed. So Keshi said, don't worry, Kamsa, I'll go and take care of him. Kamsa said, Keshi, this boy is terrible. Like, see, all these demons, my great friends, Trinavarta, Sakatasura, Aghasura, Bakasura, they all have been killed. Like the demons are naturally very proud. Or pride is one of the qualities of the demons. So Keshi said, okay, they may have, but Keshi is Keshi. So I'm going to take care of him. So Keshi assumed the form of a horse and approached Vrindavan to kill Krishna. And when he attacked Krishna, Krishna also caught him by his hind legs and started to swing him overhead. And by the time his life here left his body, and Krishna let his body fly all the way from Vrindavan to Mathura. And it landed right in front of Kamsa. But by that time, his body was completely out of shape. It was just like a bundle of flesh and bones. So Kamsa couldn't understand what's that. But then he realized that this was Keshi. And when he realized that it was Keshi, out of fear, his hair stood up in his body and he started to shiver. Vasudeva was there at that time and there was a slight smile in his face, seeing Kamsa's condition. Kamsa noticed it. And Kamsa said, here is my enemy. My distress causes him delight. So he pulled out his sword and he was about to kill Vasudeva. Right at that time, Narad Muni appeared there. Narad Muni said, what happened, Kamsa? What are you doing? And then Kamsa told him what happened. He said, look, by killing Vasudeva, what will you achieve? That will enrage Krishna even more, and he will become more upset and he'll attack you. So, rather, you try to take care of Krishna. What's the point in killing his father, killing Vasudeva? So Kamsa said, look, in so many ways I have been trying to kill him, but nobody can kill him. Narad Muni told him, Kamsa, you made a mistake. When the enemy is so strong, then you don't attack him one by one at a time. You gather all your strength and then you attack him. So Kamsa said, how am I going to do that? I mean, I can't tell my friends that, come, please join me. I'm afraid of this Krishna, and so please help me to kill him. What will happen to my reputation then? So Narad Muni said that, look, you don't really have to tell them to come to confront Krishna. You invite them to your kingdom, and when they come, then you can invite Krishna and Balaram, and then you take care of them. So Kamsa considered, how am I going to invite all these kings and to my kingdom? He said, you have this bow of Lord Shiva that no one else can actually string. This bow actually was the bow of Parsuram. So Kamsa's ancestors inherited that. So this bow, nobody can actually string this bow. So you announce that anybody, if anyone can string that bow, you'll give him half of your kingdom. So being allured by that temptation, they all will come, and on the occasion you also invite Krishna and Balaram, and then you take care of them. So Kamsa liked the idea. So he invited, and as you know what happened, Akrura was sent to bring Krishna and Balaram. Krishna and Balaram came in the late afternoon to Mathura, and then they had some snacks, and then they went out to see the city. And then finally they came to this area where this bow was kept, the bow of Lord Shiva, which he actually got from Parashuram. So, no, not Parashuram, he actually got it from Lord Vishnu to kill Tripurasura, Tripurasura demon. So that's why Lord Shiva's name is Tripurari, the one who killed Tripurasura. So he actually, so this bow is, as you can remember, nobody could string the bow that was in King Janak's court, and he made a condition that anyone who could string the bow could marry Sita Devi. So that was also a bow of Lord Shiva. So Krishna and Balaram just went there with their friends, and when they were trying to enter there, the guards stopped them. No, you can't go in. Come tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the sacrifice. Now the preparation is going on. Don't go and disturb the situation. Krishna and Balaram didn't pay any heed to what they said. Krishna went there. He saw the bow and considered, and playfully he picked it up and he strung the bow. And as he pulled, the bow broke. It created such a sound, it seemed like the whole universe started to tremble. Kamsa was worried. What happened? What happened? And he was told what happened. Then Kamsa sent an army to deal with Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna took one half of the broken bow, and Balaram took the other half of the broken bow, and just with his broken bows, they wiped out the entire army of Kamsa that he sent. So that is the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the arrangement that Kamsa made was that Krishna and Balaram would be fighting with two wrestlers. These two wrestlers were never defeated by anyone. And these wrestlers would fight in such a way that they would kill their opponents. And mind you, nobody ever could defeat these two wrestlers. Their names were Chanur and Mushtika. And they were actually 5 brothers. 3 other brothers were Kuta, Shal and Toshal. So they came to the palace of Kamsa in the morning, Krishna and Balaram. On the way, Kamsa actually placed this elephant called Kuvalaya Pira. And that elephant actually had the strength of 10,000 mad elephants. So powerful. And Kamsa thought that this elephant will kill them when they would approach. But what happened? Can anybody try to stop Krishna? Or can anybody win over Krishna? No. So Krishna killed this elephant, Kubalaya Pira. And how did he kill? He pulled out the tusk of that elephant, and with the tusk he was beating the elephant, and that's how he killed him. And then after killing the elephant and the elephant driver, Krishna took one task, huge task of that elephant, and Balaram took another tusk of the elephant, and they entered into the arena as if they were carrying two trophies. They arrived there, and Chanur and Mushtik were there, ready. They were displaying their strength to the audience. And Krishna and Balaram came, so they just faced them. And Chanur and Mushtik challenged Krishna, saying that we heard that you cowherd boys are very expert in wrestling. Krishna said, yes, we cowherd boys sometimes wrestle among ourselves. So he said, that's very good. We heard that our king heard about your wrestling skills. So give pleasure to the king by fighting with us. And if you can please the king, even by dying, that is the perfection of your existence. So Krishna and Balaram said, okay, wrestling match generally takes place between the equals. But what kind of match is this? You are two giants and we are two young boys. What kind of match is that? So they said, okay, you may look like young boys, but you are not really young boys. Last night, you broke the bow of Lord Shiva. Who could do that? No one could even lift it. And you not only strung the bow, but broke the bow. You killed that elephant, Kubalaya Pira. That has the strength of 1,000 elephants. So you are not ordinary personalities. That way we can see that Chanur and Mushtik were very fortunate to recognize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although indirectly. So then they fought, and Krishna killed Chanur and Balaram killed Mushtika. So this is how another demon was killed by Balaram. Then his three brothers, one after another, came and attacked. Shal attacked Krishna, Krishna killed him. And when Shal was killed, and when actually Chanur and Mushtik were killed, that Shal came and attacked Krishna, and Kuta attacked Balaram. So Balaram killed that other demon, Kutal. And then the fifth brother, Toshal, came and Krishna killed him. So when Kamsa saw that these demons, his associates, those who are invincible, they never were defeated by anyone, is killed by Krishna, then he became so upset that he stood up on the heavy platform, the high platform where he was surrounded by his associates. He stood up and started to shout that drive them away from the kingdom, arrest Vasudev and kill him, arrest Ugrasen and kill him. Ugrasen was Kamsa's father, and here he is telling to kill him. So Ugrasen and Vasudev were already in the prison, and he ordered that they should be killed, and Krishna and Balaram should be arrested or driven out from his kingdom. So at that time, Krishna jumped onto that platform, the heavy, high platform. And Kamsa got ready, pulled out his sword and his shield, and he was ready to fight with Krishna. But Krishna, just with bare hands, ducking the attack of his sword, he slapped Kamsa on his head. And as a result of that, Kamsa's turban went flying with his crown. Then Krishna grabbed Kamsa and threw him from that high platform onto the wrestling arena. And then he jumped onto Kamsa, just like a lion pounces upon an elephant. And right in front of everyone, Krishna with his bare hands just hitting him on his chest, killed him. Then by grabbing him by his hair, he started to go around the arena showing everybody that now Kamsa is dead. At that time, Kamsa's other brothers, he had 8 brothers, they came out. And Balaram dealt with them. So Balaram, this another people that Balaram actually, other 8 demons that Balaram killed. Balaram had some wonderful pastimes also. Balaram also has his set of gopis. Just Krishna has his gopi friends. Balaram also had his, or rather has, his gopi friends. So once Balaram went to Vrindavan, and Balaram was having his rasa dance with the gopis. And that pastimes was taking place little away from the Jamuna. So Balaram, one of the pastimes of Balaram is that he is fond of drinking wine made of honey. That is called Varuni. So he drank Varuni, became intoxicated, and he ordered, Jamuna, come here. Jamuna is a river, so she couldn't change her course in that way. Balaram became upset. Oh, you are not listening to me? So Balaram took the plough and he started to drag Jamuna. So at that time Jamuna personified came out and begged forgiveness for disobeying Balaram's order. So that is, and it is said, it can be seen also now that in that area, Hastinapur is modern day Delhi area. And in that area, Jamuna is bifurcated in many branches due to the pulling by Balaram. Balaram was approached just before the battle of Kurukshetra. Balaram was approached by both Arjun and Duryodhan to side with them, either of them. Because before the battle of Kurukshetra, they were gathering their strength. Before the battle, they were gathering their strength. So they were getting their allies to side with them. Like as you all know, Duryodhan and Arjun both actually went to Krishna first. Duryodhan came first, and Duryodhan was, at that time Krishna was sleeping. So Duryodhan came and sat on a chair near Krishna's head. And Arjun came and afterwards, and he sat near Krishna's feet. And when Krishna woke up, he saw Arjun and said, "Oh Arjun, when did you come?" So at that time, Duryodhan jumped up. No, I came first. You must address me first. You must listen to me first. Krishna said, "Look, I saw him first, so I naturally asked him how he was and when he came. Anyway, why did you all come?" And they told that, "Look, Krishna, we want you to side." Arjun said, "I want you to side with me." Duryodhan said, "No, Krishna, I want you to side with me." Then Krishna said, "Look, both of you are my relatives, so I have to be equally disposed to both of you." So, I'll make a condition. You can either have me, but I won't fight. I won't even touch any weapon. And on the other side, there will be my army. So, you can either have me or you can have my army. And I'm not going to fight the battle, or I'm not going to touch any weapon. Anyway, since Arjun is the younger one, so he should have the first choice. So Arjun said, Krishna, I want you. Even though you are not going to fight, even though you are not going to touch any weapon, I just want you. Duryodhana became delighted within himself. Oh, what a fool. So I won. I got the army, the entire army. What's the use of Krishna if he's not going to fight? So that's the difference between a non-devotee and a non-devotee. A devotee knows whether Krishna touches a weapon or fights or not. To have him, to be with him is the ultimate victory. And if the Lord is not with you, no matter how powerful the opponent is, they are going to lose. So this is the difference. Like, according to Duryodhana, he simply considered that Krishna is another ordinary person. And from the material calculation, his army is so powerful. So what's the point in having him when he is not going to fight? So from the material calculation, the strength of all the soldiers from Krishna's army was much more powerful or much more effective. So anyway, this is how Krishna actually sided with Arjun. And that's why Krishna became Arjun's chariot driver. And in the battle, in so many ways, Krishna actually saved Arjun. That is the advantage of siding with the Lord or having the Lord in your side. So many times Arjun could have been killed. For example, one instance was, there was a snake, a celestial snake, that somehow escaped when the Khandava forest was burnt. And so he made it a point that he is going to take revenge by killing Arjun. So during the battle, he actually assumed the form of an arrow in the quiver of Karna. And his purpose was that he was going to kill Arjun. And when Karna released that arrow, knowing well that the snake told him that I'm going to come and I'm going to take Arjun's life. At that time what happened? That arrow was released by Karna and it was coming to take Arjun's life. What did Krishna do? Krishna just pressed the chariot and made it sink by about 2 feet. And the arrow hit, instead of hitting the chest of Arjun, hit the crown of Arjun and took the crown away. So that is how the Lord saves his devotees. Another time, these are few out of many instances how Arjun was saved by Krishna time and time again during the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjun is actually the son of Indra. You all know that. So Indra wanted to help Arjun. And one of the greatest enemy in that battle was actually Karna. And Karna was born with a shield and armor. And they were invincible. So that means as long as he was wearing that, nobody could kill him. So knowing that, Indra actually went to Karna. Now Karna was famous for his generous nature. When a Brahmana came and asked anything from Karna, Karna never refused. So Indra came in disguise of a Brahmana. And when Karna asked, please tell me, what can I do for you? What can I give you since you have come to me? Then Indra, in disguise of a Brahmana, said, please give me your armor and the shield. It was actually studded in his body. Karna was so generous. I mean, these are the characters of the Vedic time. They cut this armor from his body and offered it to Indra. And in return, Karna got one arrow that will not miss its target. That means whoever he releases it for is going to die. So Karna got that, and he left it to be used against Krishna, used against Arjuna. And Krishna knew that. So Krishna made Ghatotkach, Bhima's son, fight in such a way that he was devastating the entire Kuru army. And as a result of that, Duryodhana told Karna. Karna used that weapon just to kill him. He said, look, I am keeping it for Arjuna. He said, forget about Arjuna. Like there won't be any time for Arjuna. Like this is our imminent devastation. So this is how Karna was forced to use that arrow to kill Ghatotkach. So this is how so wonderfully Krishna saved Arjuna. So this is the promise of Krishna. Mad bhakta na pranashati. My devotee will never vanquish. So until what time I should go on? 7 o'clock? Okay. So I end now. Just with a small end. Like during the battle, Krishna, Arjuna and Duryodhana both approached Balaram to side with him. But Balaram's response was, I'm not going to side with anybody. Both of you are equally related to me, both of you are equally dear to me, so I won't side with anybody. So Balaram actually went on pilgrim. So that's why Balaram was not there during the battle of Kurukshetra. But when the battle of Kurukshetra was about to end, Kaurava army has been totally devastated. Duryodhana ran away. Duryodhana ran away. He was hiding under water in a lake. He had the mystic power that he could remain underwater. And one of the hunters saw that and reported to the Pandavas that Duryodhana is hiding there. So the Pandavas then came there, and they could understand, yes, Duryodhana is hiding there. So they started to call Duryodhana, come out. You are so arrogant. You are so confident of winning the battle. So now, why are you running away? Come and fight. So then Duryodhana, being insulted in that way, Duryodhana came out. And Duryodhana appealed to them that, look, I'm tired and I'm alone, so please don't attack me in this situation. So Yudhishthira Maharaj said, fine, we won't attack you all together. You can choose anyone to fight with, and you can choose any weapon. And if you can win, then it will be considered that you have won the battle. So Duryodhan selected Bhim, and Duryodhan selected mess. Maybe you can hold it right now. Just hold it. Yeah, because just 1 minute, I'll be finishing. So in that rather inappropriate way, Bhim actually killed Duryodhan. Didn't kill him. Like in a mess fight, one should not hit below the belt. So Bhim actually, when he was not able to defeat Duryodhan, and Krishna could see Bhim is now becoming weaker and weaker. So Krishna actually gave an indication, slapping on his thigh, and Bhim got the message. So Bhim made a move that made Duryodhan jump up, and when he jumped up, he hit him on his thigh, and that's how he broke his thigh, and Duryodhan was lying on the ground. Balaram was there at that time. Balaram came after his pilgrimage right at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. And Balaram was very upset. Why you broke the law, the rules of this mess fight? And he attacked Bhima. He was about to attack Bhima with his plow. Now seeing that Bhima in that condition, Krishna actually intervened and reasoned with Balaram that Bhima actually took a vow that he would kill Duryodhan by breaking his thigh, when Duryodhan indicated his brother Dushasan to strip Draupadi by pointing to his thigh. So this is how Balaram was pacified by Indra. Another occasion we can see that Krishna even goes against Balaram to save his devotee. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Balaram ki jai, Balaram Jayanti ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari.
His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ji ki jai.
हरिबोल किव जय जय गौराचदे आरती का शोभा किव जय जय गौराचदे किव जय जय गौराचदे आरती का शोभा जहना बेटाट बने जगा मनना भाजना बेटाट जहना बेटाट बने जगा मनना भाई किवा दखे नैनता चदा गमे गदाधर किवा दखे नैनता किवा दखे निताय सदा हमें गदाधर